water that had been brought in from outside under no refrigeration, very large amounts of lemonade, song, Coca-Cola and water, put into a refrigerator, calibrated Coke. What happens if you put warm food or even hot food in the refrigerator? What will happen? Can it cope or not? Because there are times when hot food and warm food, regardless of the fact that we'd all like blast chillers before food is put in practice, what happens and what will can the unit cope? And the final thing is the contingency. I put this in design, contingency. Any equipment that we've got, one thing you can be sure about is it's going to break down. Sometime. Cheap equipment may break down every 5 minutes. Good equipment might last for 10 years, but at one time it's going to break down. And as the unit, one of the things I always ask as an enforcement officer is, what are your contingency plans? How do you respond if it breaks down? What are you going to do with food? How soon can you get it repaired? What is the alternatives? So those are just some of the things that I would look at when I was considering design, which is outside the mechanics, which the engineers have talked about.
Now, when you talk about design or consultants, the problem in Kuwait, the problem in the area, it's reflected in the discussion. We run to the refrigeration system. But the fact, before we go to the refrigeration system, let's take a warehouse or cold stores or thing. There you have to think first about designing the cold stores in terms of docking, receiving, marching, handling area, and then the size of the chamber or the room correctly, decide on how we're going to do order, pick up, all of these things. And then later on will come the refrigeration. We have the same problem, I can't speak of Kuwait of course, always they go directly to the contractor or manufacturer of panels or whatever, and they tell them, I need a cold store. And most of them look alike. They do similar to the other cold stores, and all the focus is done on a compressor. Okay? So therefore, what we like here, the concept that this cold store has to meet the requirement of the customer. What type of cold store it is? Is it a public warehouse, or is it specialized, or is it integrated with processing? And so therefore, what we have here is a problem in that kind of how do we start the project. Thank you very much.
We have, again, poor designs, which later are affected, where we do not fix the right refrigeration equipment in the right place. And we suffer and we pay extra. That's something. And Richard had mentioned that contingency plans, or we call it crisis management plan. What is plan B? What if all your refrigeration breaks down because of a trip or something went wrong on electrical circuit, something like that? You are going to lose and waste all the products. It's going to be delayed. You're going to lose customers, and there's going to be a huge loss. How many of them in this room have a plan B, a contingency plan? Where would they go for refrigeration? Are they going to hire from a local company a refurb refrigeration container and store immediately? Do they have it in place to call them immediately to bring the container, transport, and all those things? It's something that I want to discuss, because passed through that stage and it was hell.
Yeah, I agree, Ravi. It's discomforting and discomforting at the same time to know that everybody's got the same problems. So, having said that, yes, come back in a sec after I come back. Ravi, when you find that you have been sold the wrong design, when you actually go for the expansion of your facilities in new line businesses, do you actually then sit down with your consultant and input your experience into the new design?
From the mistakes learned, we certainly sit with a professional consultant, show them what has happened in the past, and now when we go for expansion, certainly we look into the right equipment, the right design, and move forward.
Well, this is where the key is, I think. You need to have the end user participation and not only leave it to the so-called experts in the field to actually sell your product. This is where it's very important that you as a customer actually sit down with the consultant and actually give input. Lauren, do you want
We'd like to see who they've done in the past, which other factories or companies established and then installed, and then go and visit them and talk to them and see how it is, and not some newcomer in the market.
See, as a gentleman mentioned from Kuwait, when somebody says, let's make a cold store, well, he makes a cold store and he learns from the mistakes on the way. So next time he actually wants to make another cold store, he doesn't call a contractor and say, make a cold store. He actually sets down the specifications and says, I want this done this way based on my experience. So this is where I think the end user involvement. Before I come back to you, George, Lauren, a quick word because somebody else wants to say something.
As you know, the cold chain management is the prime responsibility and food safety. I'd like to know whether from the manufacturer's point, on the production point, to the receiving point in Dubai, is the temperature that is being maintained, has been recorded, and that you have the record for that?
Make sure that during transportation the food is kept at the right temperature. So in essence, yes, it is in the law, but the implementation side of it, I mean, it's not as we wish to have, but it is there.
Yeah, thank you. And I must appreciate the Dubai municipality. I am here in this region for quite a long time and in the same refrigeration field. And year by year, the Dubai municipality has been quite rigid with their checking what the temperature controls with the vehicles, and that's up to, it's very good of them to enforce that sort of regulations. But at the same time, being a service provider, there are certain criteria we need to consider when we provide a service to a client. For instance, a client calls saying, I want the freezer. There are certain things we need to ask the client. So we go about inquiring first the client, what is his requirement? That is very important. What is the mode of operation? What is the product that he is going to load? Sometimes a client is not aware of, is ignorant of certain factors, which we as a service provider guide them as what to do and what temperature they should go, what type of equipment they should have. Sometimes the price is not a factor in buying an equipment. It is the product that matters. We don't sell price, it is the product we sell. So as a result, we ask the client the type of operation, whether what's the frequency of these deliveries, how does it deliver, what is the product is going to load in. So based on these factors, we come to a conclusion and we advise them, okay, you need to have certain units, certain size of unit, a box, and then there it goes. And we as Thermo King has always been quality conscious, and to maintain the cold chain management, especially in the trucks, we have now come up with a very small unit, but very, very important unit.
I'd like to, we talk about Kyoto Protocol is actually one of the topics of discussion much later on. Yes, we are aware of the Kyoto Protocol, but I'd like to introduce Kyoto Protocol not only in terms of the natural beverages that are being used, but also in terms of mandatory compliance from the local authorities for replacement of equipment using HFCs and other environmentally damaging gas. We'll come to that as a huge subject, which I don't think businesses are actually prepared for that, and we will need actually input from the authorities into the implementation of the Kyoto Protocol. To answer George, I know that somebody in Kuwait, and I cannot mention that, they have been using propane gas as a natural refrigerant in their application. So yes, the awareness is there about using natural refrigerants, and it's really nice to know that people care about the environment. I mean, this is not, I cannot reveal the name of the company or the institution, but this institution cannot be regulated, but they are doing a sort of a self-regulation, which is good. About what Thermo King mentioned, people come to them asking for advice, and they sell the product on the price, and they actually educate the product. Honestly, personally speaking, this is not the job of the supplier. This is the job of the consultant. And it really comes to the bottom line that there are no refrigeration consultants, professional refrigeration consultants in the market today. And actually, if you actually want to design a supermarket, you will go to a design person. You will not even go to an MEP consultant. The MEP consultant or the MEP engineer is a subset of the design person. It's actually very important for supermarkets to look good. For some people, it's probably a part of branding. For us, branding is very important. Coming from Amaranth, we have the same brand and we cannot change the logo and so on. I can tell you personally, refrigeration is just another box in the drawing. It's a display freezer to be kept, as what Richard mentioned. There's no regard to where the food is made, prepared, stored. It's just something that needs to be kept someplace. It's a big challenge actually, and it actually underlines the fact that there is a lack of professional refrigeration engineers. I like to give you a chance to speak. Again, contingency. Very, very important. Ravi mentioned contingency, and his business is very important as a food manufacturer. Not to lose product, downtime. He cannot afford to have anything lost. How many of us are actually prepared for contingency? And how many of us are actually prepared to pay the cost for contingency? I'll leave some questions to the audience.
My name is Firas Abdin from Jordan, from Abdin Invest Establishment, specialized in manufacturing display cabinets for supermarkets and supplying as well. I would like to point out on some point we discussed about, for example, sizing a compressor. As people come to us, they want to call to a cabinet with a 5 horsepower compressor, let's say. Our part is educating our customers. In our part of the world, most of our customers are not educated about refrigeration. So our duty, especially in our company, before we give a quote to the customer, we educate the customer and don't teach him that this is correct or it's incorrect what he's asking for. I would like to point out our energy optimizing solutions. Of course, energy is very important, and for being a cabinet manufacturer, every manufacturer can supply energy optimizing solution. Is the point with the customer paying for such solutions, because such will increase the price of the supermarket or the project itself. Of course, we as a big company, we always speak of energy optimizing solution, and we were able to convince 2 big customers in Jordan to install such systems, and we were able to save up to 30% of energy in one hypermarket and in one supermarket. So this is coming soon to our part of the world, but what's open is energy, and it's not so expensive as in Europe. So we tell the customer, you have a payback period of 5 years. They will say, no, I need a traditional system. This 5 years too long for me to get my money back. Where in Europe it's 2 to 3 years, and the money can be paid back of the investment. Not coming to the natural gases, which our friend George mentioned. Natural gases. Natural gases, it is possible to use, but it's the problem that maybe it's not implemented in our part of the world, because most of our technicians, they do not know anything about this technology and how to maintain it and to look after it. So people in this period is still using traditional systems, unless we find a way to educate the people of this area, of this world, on natural gas and how to